How can you possibly make any progress with your glutes when you're already training hard, you're training 4 times a week, you're eating really well, you're doing all your steps, you see these influencers who are training for 1 to 3 hours a day, loads of recovery time, all their food looks amazing. Where are we getting that time from? And if we can't get that time, are we ever going to make the progress that we want to make? And as promised last week, I'm actually going to go through a whole session with you and what I would do, because most of you are doing the right exercises. But it's a bit like baking a cake. We're going ahead and getting all of the ingredients, getting the volumes, the exercises, how they load the glutes. But it's the way you put those bits of ingredients together that will determine the outcome. So we have to consider context whenever building a program. The thing I need to understand first is the goal. The next thing is opportunity. I need to know how many times we can go to the gym. I need to know how long we can train. If she said to me, I have 45 minutes, I'm not going to be programming barbell RDLs and back squats because they can take 25 minutes by the time you've warmed up properly and then gone into the session themselves. I'm going to give you 6 exercises that I think are phenomenal glute growers, but I'm going to put them into a session that is actually going to help you grow your glutes. The first glute session is going to be a hip thrust. You might say, well, obviously you've chosen a hip thrust, but it's obvious because it works. You know, cliches are often cliches because they're true. The hip thrust works the glute in short and range, so it's going to hit the upper and mid part of glute max. And we're going to do that in the 7 to 10 rep range. The hip thrust is a fantastic exercise for loading capacity, but also it's a fairly low skill movement. So naturally, people can do it pretty well. Because you can lift a lot more weight with a barbell, typically I like to put those exercises first, and I call these compounds. The dumbbell versions of these exercises, secondary compounds. And my secondary compounds are the movements I tend to program next. We're then going to do a unilateral dumbbell RDL. The reason for that is it works the glute in the lengthen range, but it also is going to work a lot of the stability parts of glute medius to stop the femur caving in and obviously keeping you balanced. The dumbbell RDL, especially the unilateral one, I love. I think it's a fantastic exercise. The third exercise is a seated abduction in the 15 to 20 rep range because we can load it very heavy. People like to do cable work in the 15 to 20 rep range, but if you're standing on one leg for 15 to 20 reps, that fatigue level is going to be creeping up so much by the time you actually come to working that leg. So far, we've prioritized the mid and upper with a hip thrust that's heavy. We've then done some accessory work using the glute medius, but also the lower parts of glute max. Some more direct work with the glute medius, which also helps to build the shelf, so the upper parts of the glutes. This is a solid glute session. We've got all areas of the glutes well hit. Don't go and pick up that session and go, I'm going to do that next, because that session doesn't make sense unless you do the next one as well, because it has to work within the framework, the structure and the volume. For the second session of the week, if you came to me and said, I just want a bigger shelf, then of course we would prioritize that. And I'd probably use a calf hip thrust to go first. But if we're just trying to grow bigger, more rounded glutes, Bulgarian split squats to start with. Why? Well, I didn't choose back squats because with back squats, what you've got is a lot of time. It's also a high skill movement. And this is something that people just don't remember when they hand out these exercises willy-nilly. I like to get clients a result. I like to show them that they are not hopeless. We need a quick result. And once I get that quick result, I can then be like, right, I want to swap these out and we're going to start working on that back squat now. The Bulgarian split squat works the lower parts of the glute because it works it in its lengthened position. What we can do is hold the dumbbell contralaterally. So we're going to work the left leg and the dumbbell is going to be in the right hand. This means we've got some rotational bias. So we're going to get a bit of glute medius in there as well. Next exercise is a dumbbell RDL. One, it takes a lot less time than a barbell RDL, and we're gonna get the glutes in their lower stretched position. So we're actually compounding now. They're loaded in slightly different ways, but they are still targeting the same part of the glute. The next thing I do is a Smith machine calf hip thrust, where we're really focusing on the shortened range. If you've got a glute drive or something like that, you could use that as well. This is gonna work the upper glutes. The cool thing about this is that because it's such a short range of motion that we do with the calf hip thrust, you can tend to load it quite well, but the burn can be really psychologically rewarding because you're getting a lot of connection to the glutes. Doing 15 to 20 reps of the calf hip thrust is a wonderful way to round off a glute session. So overall, what we've done is we've divided up our 6 exercises in a way where their relationship to each other makes a lot more sense, both structurally within a session, but also within the rep ranges that they work. A barbell RDL is not a good exercise to do 15 to 20 reps in. Equally, certain exercises just don't make any sense in a lower rep range, such as a kickback. You're not going to do a lateral kickback for 5 reps, whereas you would do a hip thrust for 5 reps. So it really kind of pisses me off when people hand out programs where, you know, everything is 3 sets of 10. It's lazy. If you go into trying different programs and you don't assess context, it's like going into an operating table with somebody else's notes. It's not going to end well. Anything that we do, we need a purpose for. It needs to have intention. And if you go into the description, I've put 2 glute sessions that you could do. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one.